Hello and welcome to Season 9, Episode 4 of the Ubuntu Podcast. In this week's episode, we're going to be interviewing Catherine Jones from the Science Museum. We'll also have some command line love and go over your feedback. I'm Laura, and joining me this week are Mark.
Hello.
And Martin.
Hello.
And Alan.
Hiya.
Hiya. So, what have we been up to since last time we spoke? Mark?
Well, I went through my loft and got rid of all of the piles and piles of technological odds and ends which have been piling up since I finished uni. So that was quite some time ago. Got rid of free cycled some, sold some, recycled some. But in doing so, I unearthed my old O2 joggler, which I have now finally got a use for.
Go on.
So it's now running Ubuntu 14.04 with Kodi, and it's doubling up as a digital photo frame and an MB front end for playing music.
It's still 14.04 runs on that thing.
Yeah, it's a slightly hacky version with a sort of forward ported earlier version of X, but yeah,
Is this the one done by
What process is in that?
Sorry, I had two questions at once there.
It's an Atom, isn't it, with a Power VR GPU?
I'm not sure it's even an Atom. I think it might be something worse than that.
There's worse than that. Oh yeah, Celeron or lower. Yeah, lower than a Celeron.
Yeah,
but it's got
an AMD Geode or something
GPU
weird.
Is a Power VR, which is horribly annoying and proprietary.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it is x86.
Yes.
As opposed to ARM.
Yeah, the guy who packages up RetroPie, who's Exobuzz on IRC, is the same guy who makes the juggler images, and I still see him posting online that he's made updated juggler images even now.
Well, there we go. jwills.co.uk is the website I got it from. Yes.
Cool. And so it works all right?
Yeah, and it runs Kodi, and it just sits there and displays my photos until I send it some music, and then it plays some music.
Cool.
Has it still got the Frankenstein hot sink hanging out the back?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that. So, Martin, what have you been up to?
Well, I don't know if you've heard, but there's this distribution that I work on from time to time. And
that's
Ubuntu
the end
Martin,
of the intro.
isn't it?
Let's
Yeah.
Go on, welcome to the Ubuntu Mate Podcast. I'm Laura, and I'm here with Martin, Mark, and Alan. Go on, Martin.
No, it's fine.
Don't let us stop you.
Well, I've just been fixing bugs and refining it because we're into approaching second beta now, or final beta. So I've just been crushing lots of bugs and making things better, and that's really all I've been doing in my spare time.
Tell us about client-side decorations.
They work now.
What are they?
So it's the new hotness, Laura.
10 seconds to explain what they are.
Oh dear. So traditionally your decorations and what have you, your window decorations and stuff were rendered in the X server, and with things like Mir and Wayland on the way, we're starting to render things on the client side, not on the server side. But it means that they work differently. So client side decorations sometimes don't render at all, or the windows look a bit different. And what I've been working on is making Ubuntu Mate work with those sorts of applications so that they render correctly and they do all the right things.
Cool.
Yeah. It's a brave new future.
Okay. We should probably carry on. Before going to see Lawrence of Arabia last weekend for the whole afternoon, I popped in and met Catherine Jones, who works at the Science Museum in London. And she works on sort of the technological and hardware side of the displays that you see in the Science Museum. And so she explained to me what it was about. I'm here with Catherine Jones in quite a posh hotel, and Catherine works for the Science Museum, and she's going to talk to us a little bit about what she does. Hello, Catherine.
Hello, Laura.
So what is it that you do? You've got quite a cool job, I believe.
Yeah, so my job title at the Science Museum is New Media Hardware Engineer, and that means that all the interactive exhibits that are in the Science Museum and anything that's sort of got audio-visual content in it, so if it's like things like projectors, computers, monitors, audio, anything like that, usually at some point in that exhibition I'll be involved in either speccing the equipment or working out how to do things or installing it or making sure other people have installed it properly, and then looking after some of the maintenance, working in close collaboration with our maintenance team to keep it all running.
Okay, so when you have like interactive exhibitions and things, you're involved with that as well?
That's right, yeah. So a lot of the software goes out to sort of creative agencies, and we'll sort of specify what hardware we've got to use, what we've got available, or sometimes they'll come up with ideas, and they might be sort of good ideas for like art installations that have to last 24 hours, but our exhibitions can have to last 6 months, years, or years, or even permanently. So we do a lot of sense checking what they've actually suggested, and sort of come up with ideas based on the years of experience that the Science Museum has of doing interactive exhibits.
So what's an example of an exhibit that you've been involved in in terms of trying to make it actually happen on a hardware level?
I think my sort of favourite one was, because I was involved in really early stages, in the Information Age Gallery. We've got several sort of interactive models of various pieces of technology. So we've got things like Morse tapper keys and dial telephones, and the one that I worked on was the crystal set radio. So I sort of built a prototype basically out of cardboard and with an Arduino of the crystal set radio, and it was actually the crystal set radio that I chose is the one that's now displayed actually in the gallery. So I did the sort of, like I said, an early prototype model of it, and it did some audience research testing and to get the idea of can people interact with a model, try and understand how it's working, and see the real thing in the showcase. So I was quite actually pleased that they'd actually used. So I did all the early prototype testing, and then it went out to like a company to do like a really robust model. I mean, they came back with ideas of like using just like sort of linear potentiometers for the adjusting a coil so you can tune the radio. But no, it needs to be like an actual like glass, like an actual encoder, because again, linear potentiometers, they might be fine just for a few weeks, but when we put stuff on permanently, they just last 2 minutes.
Right, you have to keep it robust.
Yeah, everything. What's most important about Science Museum is that everything has to be really robust. We really test anything. If you come sort of during a busy half term, and you'll see kids just absolutely hammering buttons, and they also don't know what buttons not to hammer. You'll see just like hammering the lift buttons and things like that. So yeah, you get a real idea of how robust things have to be for our interactives.
So how do you come up with the ideas for what exactly will be in the interactive displays?
It varies a lot. We work really closely with like the content developers and the curators. Sometimes they'll have ideas about what content they want to get across to the public and what the message has to be, and then we'll come up with some ideas, and then sort of like briefs are written out and go to creative agencies, and they'll come back with ideas, and it's between like the what we call new media team, the content developers, and the creative agencies. It's quite it's not like one set thing, or this is what we do. There's quite a lot of development, and again, we do a lot of audience research testing to see what actually makes sense to people.
Do you find that things just don't work sometimes once you've prototyped them, or do you just adjust them usually?
Yeah, I mean, I can't think of anything that's not what I find is that people don't always use things in the way you expect people to use them. So that's why we do as much prototyping as we can. But once things are in the gallery, it's pretty much fixed. It's not like web stuff where you can keep going back to it, release stuff day after day. Once it's in the gallery, it's live. Unless it's actually physically broken or physically won't work, then that is like the cut-off point then. and then we have to just basically review it, and then for the next time we do something, we have to learn lessons from that.
Right, yeah. And what sort of hardware do you use? You mentioned Arduino before. Do you use like Raspberry Pis and all that kind of thing?
Yeah, Raspberry Pis are not being using that many of them. I absolutely love using them. Our Information Age gallery has got a few in. There's an exhibit called the Web Story Box, which is all about, it's Tim Berners-Lee and Josie Lawrence teaching how to code, and there's little Raspberry Pis on the wall, and they do things like the pulling all the weather and stuff like that. And then we've used them a lot for video players. We did an exhibition called, it was a Spanish artist called Juan Fontcaberta, and it's really cool, like this like alternative history where like you create these like sort of skeletons of weird and wonderful animals, and that had quite a lot of sort of videos and sound and quite a tight budget, so I just went, right, we're just going to try Raspberry Pis on this one, and it was worth a try. And I think in the full 6 months run of it, the Raspberry Pis performed flawlessly. I think one needed a reboot once. So yeah, I love using Raspberry Pis. And then it's a mix of things like Mac Mini computers and various other computers. I mean, I love Mac Minis because they're small, they're robust. All the creative agencies love doing stuff on Macs. And then yeah, sort of PCs, and we have like a lot of the videos are played on like sort of digital signage, solid state like media players when they're just looping video, or if we have to do like two videos synchronized together. So yeah, so it's whatever is needed for the job really.
Is there one that you can think of that's a particularly most technically challenging you've had?
Didn't work on myself that much. There was in the Engineering Your Future gallery, there's a really cool exhibit called Futureville, and it's all about engineers and what jobs they do, and that's a really cool piece where it's a large circle and it's physically actually 3D. It is there's physical aspects to it, and it's projected onto it, projection mapped, and then you drive a little car around the thing, so you have to pick engineers up in one place and then drive them around to their place of work. So yeah, I think I didn't work on that one too much, but yeah, I think that was quite difficult for them to get that right, because there was a lot of aspects to it. Because you can also play it on your phone, so you can like join the game on your phone while you're in the gallery, not just using the tablets on gallery.
So how did you get into doing this?
I saw the job advertised. So I've done lots of different jobs. I've done everything from my first job after uni was setting up radar circuits for like military radar, and then I've done like quite traditional electrical mechanical engineering. I've done sort of IT support work, and I did like sort of CCTV stuff. And then I just got into some really dull work supporting printers. I thought, right, I just want to do something completely different. I just wanted to do something that was a bit more just for social good. So I started looking around for things like charity jobs, third sector jobs, like arts and culture jobs, something like that. And then I saw the job advertised, and I've done similar sort of work, and then interviewed for it and got it, and that was 3.5 years ago. I've been there 3.5 years now.
Oh, cool. So it's going well.
Yeah.
So are there any exhibits and things you're working on at the moment, or you've worked recently on, that people can go to see now or soon?
Yeah, so we've just put in the Leonardo Mechanics of Genius exhibition, and that's a exhibition that it's touring around Europe and the world, and we've taken it on. So that's really good. That's all about Leonardo's work, and it's concentrated on his like mechanisms and his engineering rather than his artwork. And so I worked on that. I've been working on that quite a while now. I went to see the exhibition in Munich, I think it was, and we spoke to again. It's trying to work out what's robust and what's not robust. So yeah, it's that's on now for 6 months. We've got some really cool exhibitions coming up in the summer, which haven't been announced yet, so I can't really tell you what they are. But from about June, July time, keep your eyes open if you're interested in computer data and things like that, and some really cool science and computer stuff coming up.
So you said about the Leonardo thing touring.
Yeah.
So do you have to Do they just bring the kit as it is and you just install it and make it happen, or do you do it from scratch each time?
It varies. So yes, the Leonardo exhibition is the first one that I've worked on while I've been here, where it's come from it's been developed outside the museum and come in. That was quite unusual, and yet that all came with all computers and screens and everything like that. So again, that was part of my job, to look through all the kit lists that we'd got and say, yeah, actually this is all like fine kit. It's similar to what we'd buy. As long as we get sort of spares and manuals, that's fine. And now everything that we do is all the exhibitions that we develop in the museum, we now have to develop them with a look out to the world tour, either just within the group, because in the Science Museum group we've got the Science Museum, the National Railway Museum at York, National Media Museum at Bradford, and the Museum of Science and Industry at Manchester. So they will actually often tour to those different sites. And then we've got a touring exhibitions department now, so they may tour through Europe and across the world. So yeah, we do have to look at how we tour stuff. Anything we do, can it tour? Will it tour? What are the problems with touring it?
Whether people have to be able to set it up on their sites.
Yeah. So it's making sure that it's not too, again, like it's not delicate and not like wires. You can't just have a little breadboard with wires poked in it with an Arduino. Everything has to be properly built.
Oh, cool. That is a really interesting job. So if people want to go see what's happened, that sort of thing, the Leonardo exhibition's on now, and then there's stuff coming up in the summer.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you very much. It's been really interesting.
Thanks, Laura. It's been really great to talk to you.
Nice one, Laura. That was really great. I had no concept of the amount of work that goes into like the displays and how they have to make them like super robust in case they have to like take them around. I didn't even realize they would move them around.
Yeah, and I mean, it seems kind of obvious that you have to make them robust for kids hammering them, but
right.
I can't imagine how robust that has to
right.
be.
I mean, I've worked in schools and colleges and stuff, so I know what it's like trying to make stuff robust when people are like deliberately. But when there's strangers coming in, like just beating the crap out of the buttons and stuff, that must be hard work.
Yeah. So yeah.
Sounds like a really fun job.
I met Catherine hacking dinosaurs on the Isle of Wight, and she was doing something there with some of the stuff that she had, so I was chatting to her about it.
Excellent. Okay, let's move on.
And now it's time for Command Line Love. And the Command Line Love, this episode is PSMem, which is
brilliant.
a utility.
Good choice, Martin.
Yes.
Great choice.
Yes. Great
Classic
choice.
Command Line.
Oh, yeah.
Love.
Oh, God, yeah.
Edge of my seat.
Yeah. It's the new hotness, Laura.
Oh, right.
It's a utility to accurately report the in-core memory usage for a program.
You knew that. You knew that.
You won't find this in the Ubuntu repositories, so you will have to grab this from GitHub. Either Git branch it or wget it. We'll have instructions in the show notes. But once you have PSMem, you simply run it, so sudo psmem.py, and that will get a memory usage report. And the child processes in this mode will be aggregated under the parent. So, for example, it will show you that in my case right now, I have 55. It says Chrome brackets 55, so there are 55 Chrome processes, and it tells me that of my RAM, 6.6 gigabytes is being used, and 4.4 gigabytes of that is being used by Chrome.
Wow.
And if you use psmem-s, that will split the child processes out, so they'll be individually reported. Now, in the case of Chrome, this isn't particularly useful, but I used this recently at work where we had a Java application server. I think this one was running Tomcat, and we had several different Java applications running under the servlets there, and we wanted to know how much memory one of them was using, because we knew one of them was using vast amounts of RAM and there was a smaller one, and by splitting that out, we could see the big one was using like 50 gigs of RAM and the small one was only using 70 megabytes of RAM. And we were able to take that number and then scale out, working out how to scale that process horizontally across multiple containers. And you can also do some quite advanced filtering with it, so you can filter individual processes or by user. And I've also used it for doing comparisons of desktop memory consumption. So in the past, a couple of years ago, I wrote a blog article about all of the desktop environments running on the same base operating system and how much RAM they ran, because you get an accurate overview of the whole system running, because it takes into account, buffers and all of that stuff.
It's awesome.
It's a brilliant diagnostic tool.
I used this on Ubuntu Phone a year or so ago when we found there was a memory leak in something, but nobody knew what the memory leak was in. So I set up a cron job on my phone, which just ran PSMem every 5 minutes and piped the output to a file, a date stamp file, and then just
you look for which number's getting bigger.
Yeah, which one's getting bigger, and that's the one. And sure enough, we found which one it was, filed debug, and got it fixed. And it was just a super simple thing. You just cron running PSMem, and you can easily see which thing is eating up your memory. How many Chrome tabs did you say you have?
55.
55.
I've got 56. Ha!
Ha!
I don't know why I have exactly one more than you. That's really weird. Bizarre.
I find somewhere between 54, 56, that's sort of optimum.
Right, yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't want to go any higher. That would just be ridiculous.
No.
Of course.
Or any less, that's just can use Firefox.
Excellent. What a fantastic one I love. Thank you, Martin.
You're welcome.
We love getting your feedback, so please send it to us. Even the pointlessly mean stuff makes us laugh. If it's short, tweet us on @Ubuntu Podcast. If it's less short, but please no essays, email us on show@ubuntupodcast.org. If you'd like to discuss some of the things we talk about with other listeners, post on our shiny new subreddit at reddit.com/r/Ubuntu Podcast. Or you can just leave a comment on the relevant show notes on our website, ubuntupodcast.org.
And now it's time for your feedback. And thank you for sending it in via Twitter or email or whatever. We love getting all of it, as Laura said. This week, Lopter tweeted us to say,
nice to hear Alan Jude getting a mention on Ubuntu Podcast Season 9, Episode 1.
Does anyone know what that was? Oh, the ZFS stuff.
Yes. I mentioned Alan Jude had done a video, a talk, and I mentioned the YouTube video that Alan Jude had done. And then he poked me on IRC to say the following.
You forgot to mention my ZFS book on your podcast. I only heard the mention VBS. Oh dear, that's easy to say, isn't it? VBSDCon and FOSDEM talk, but thanks for the mention. But I will get you back for the no one uses BSD comment.
Did I say that? I think I might have done.
Ooh,
you've made an enemy,
be afraid.
Alan. Yeah,
enemy of the show, Alan Jude.
Actually, Alan Jude. I play Tetranet with Alan Jude sometimes. I don't know if any of your listeners have played Tetranet.
Yeah.
It's multiplayer Tetris. It's brilliant.
I play it with my mother-in-law.
It's from the past, but it's great fun. And he is a patient co-player. He will destroy you in a second, but also he will let you live and give you gifts within the game to let you live a little bit longer so he can destroy you comprehensively later. Moving on, Dave Hingley posted on Facebook,
has something happened to the podcast feed? I'm trying to play episode 0 and it crashed my podcatcher, and this episode gives me an error message. My podcaster is Podcast Rebulic on Android.
ooh.
Yeah.
So we don't know, but if anybody else is having problems with the podcast, please let us know, because without more data, we can't fix this. So I'm hoping everyone's getting the podcast and listening to it. I'm not aware of anything significant that's changed to the podcast feed, and I've checked all the bugs in the podcasting software and I can't find anything. So if anyone else is having difficulty, please let us know and we can look into it. And
Actually,
I'm sorry, Dave.
So if you can't hear us say this, let us know.
Yeah.
Actually, we did get some feedback which isn't included in this list, but we got at the last minute from someone who listens to the podcast and visits the podcast website via Tor. And when they access via Tor, the caching web proxy that we have
the CDN.
the CDN in front makes it difficult for them to download episodes. So it's entirely possible. I don't know if Dave Hingley uses Tor, but if he does, that could be a reason why he's unable to download the episode.
We don't have the CDN in front of the feeds themselves, only the website.
Okay. Interesting. I don't know.
Okay. Okay. Well, we'll look into it, but more information would be useful.
Super. Thank you, Dave. Albert Hickey, Winkelink on Twitter, tweeted us.
Ringtone fixed on iPhone, Ubuntu Podcast theme tune.
Yay!
Brilliant.
I spoke to him about this a few months ago. Yeah.
You used to do that, didn't you, Alan?
I did. I mentioned this. I've mentioned this in the past. Years and years ago, I worked in an office in Haywards Heath, and I had the theme tune on my phone, which at the time was a Nokia N82 Symbian phone, and I had the Ubuntu Podcast theme as my ringtone, and it rang one day, and this old guy who sat behind me in the office said, "Crazy words, crazy tune," and I went, "What?" How did you know that? And he said, I've got the 78 vinyl. And he actually had it in the car with him because at lunchtime, he likes to get out of the office. So he would go and sit and eat a sandwich in the car. And he had a wind-up 78 record player on the passenger seat with the big horn thing. And he would sit in his car and listen to 78s in his car while eating his lunch.
Sounds like the most eccentric person ever.
And he has our theme tune, so he's clearly like fully adjusted and everything.
Nowadays, he'd just be a hipster in London.
I can picture now people with 78 record players and horns on the back of their bike while they're riding around London.
In Shoreditch.
Yes, in Shoreditch.
Slung under one arm.
Yeah.
That's going to
walking through the ghetto.
Send us photos of people with 78 record players on their bicycle.
Playing Crazy Words, Crazy Tune.
Yes, importantly that bit. Andy Stanford Clark tweeted us to say,
at Ubuntu Podcast, triple ? Winky smile. No,
Explain.
Andy, it's triple with an EL. You're just reading it wrong.
What's this about?
So our title
I think he was implying we
episode.
had misspelled one of our episode titles.
It was Raspberry Triple, wasn't it?
Triple with an EL.
Right, it was triple,
and that
not
was
triple. Right.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so Mia Iowu, I'm really sorry I butchered your name, commented on our blog.
I also participated in the usability study at Canonical's offices. My experience perfectly mirrors that of Wimpy. It was a lot of fun and Tingray was great. Would love to participate in more of those, but it's a bit of a commute for me.
Excellent. It's good to hear more
That's
people
really
are doing
cool.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's good to hear from someone else who's done it as well. Isn't that great?
Yeah.
Taurainism commented on our subreddit.
Just discovered the podcast and I'm enjoying it. Going to be adding it to my list. As for command line, I always smile when I see get it and in it, because as a Londoner, get it means understand and in it means in it, isn't it?
In it?
I love the surprise in your voice as you read that email out, Mark, where you said, just discovered the podcast and I'm enjoying it. As if it was like some ludicrous thing that someone might do.
And finally, we'd just like to say a special thank you to CMT Rudy for giving our subreddit an Ubuntu theme that matches our shiny new website. Thank you very much for doing that. It looks terrific.
It does. It
really
really
does.
does.
Rudy is lovely. I met him at Scale earlier in the year. He's a lovely, lovely person, very active member of the French community and works on Le Ubuntu Podcast, the French Ubuntu Podcast.
Oh, right. I didn't make that connection. Brilliant.
Yes. Absolutely lovely person. Well, thank you all very much for your feedback. And yeah, that's the end of it.
And that's all for episode 4. We'll be back next week when we'll have more news, comment, and discussion.
Super. That was
Yeah.
fun. I enjoyed that.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel an overwhelming urge to take the kids to the Science Museum at Easter. I think I'll
Yes.
I've got some
Yeah.
days
Well,
off.
we've actually
Awesome.
got a trip to London planned, so I think we'll,
Good idea.
weave that in. Yeah.
Yeah. That's good.
Go and smack some buttons.
Yes.
Even
Definitely.
the
See how sturdy they are.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.